What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another video. So we're going to get started right off the bat. We've got our week 2 reactions to the NFL season, and I've got my week 3 predictions. This video might be a little bit longer than normal, so I'm going to just drive straight into this. So we've got the Panthers and the Texans in Houston to start off. Panthers are looking good so far with the relatively weak NFC South outside of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I think they're really surprising a lot of people. So I think it's easy to say that with guys like Christian McCaffrey and a rejuvenated Sam Darnold, I think they're going to take this one pretty easily in Houston. Next up, we've got the Falcons and the Giants. Again, both of these teams, not really a whole lot to be impressed about. I'm not going to watch this one whatsoever. They're both fairly bad teams. I've got the Falcons taking this one in New York, but I mean, this one could easily go either way because both of these teams aren't very good. Next up, we've got the Ravens and the Lions in Detroit. So the Ravens got a really good win against the Kansas City Chiefs. I was really impressed by what they were able to do despite all their injuries. Having said that, Lamar Jackson's really got to cut back on some of the turnovers. He threw a pick 6 to start the game, which isn't good. His dynamic play did allow for them to get, climb back into that game and to get the win. But, I do think I would like to see him cut back on some of the turnovers a little bit and, play a little bit smarter with the football. And in this game, I've absolutely got the Ravens beating the Lions. Next up, we've got the Bills and the Washington football team in Buffalo. The Bills are... Okay, so the Bills are one of the teams, I'm going to say this quite a bit in this video, week 1 versus week 2. The Bills are very much one of these teams that I looked at in week 1 and was just thoroughly confused as to why they played so poorly. But week 2 is definitely the version of the Bills that I think we're going to see the rest of the season. I really think that they're going to run away with that AFC East division. So I think they're going to win this one pretty handily against a depleted Washington team. Next one, we've got the Cardinals and the Jaguars in Jacksonville. So the Cardinals look like they've got a pretty scary offense. I mean, the amount of points they're putting up on people. Kyler Murray's playing at a phenomenal level. I think that, again, I said this last time, if it wasn't for the fact that they were in the NFC West, I would think that they're going to be a strong contender. But the Cardinals have always shown flashes of brilliance in previous seasons since they've gotten Kyler Murray, but sometimes they fall off. So it'll be interesting to see how long they'll be able to keep this up. But they do look good. I'm trying to be objective here. So again, I think the Cardinals do look pretty good, and I think they're going to easily handle the Jacksonville Jaguars. Next up, we've got the Titans and the Colts in Tennessee. Okay, this one's really hard to pick. And let's start with the Titans. First of all, the Titans had an insane comeback against the Seahawks, all right? I was really impressed by the way that, they let King Henry run and some of the throws that Tannehill made to Julio Jones, which, by the way, I think that touchdown that they took back because his heel touched the edge of the end zone, I don't understand it. I was so confused. Both toes were down, and there was another picture that the Titans actually showed, I think on their Facebook page or one of their social media pages, and it looks like there was daylight between the paint and his heel. I think they got hosed on that one, so that's even more of a reason why I think that, the Titans are trending in the right direction. They're leaning more in the direction that I thought they would be when this season first started. The other team in that match, the Colts. So the Colts do look tough, and they are desperate. They are desperate for a win so far because they have started 0-2. They've had a tough schedule, but the problem is Carson Wentz is injured again, and Carson Wentz's biggest flaw is the fact that he is such a gamer and he tries to extend the play. There is no reason why he should have been injured on that play when Aaron Donald tackled him, okay? Aaron Donald was landing first before him, and the way they were rotating, if he would have just went with the tackle and just taken the sack, he would have been okay. But he tried to, pivot his hips, and he tried to plant his leg, and if you look back at the footage, you can see that's how his leg got caught because he was trying to extend the play, try to get the ball out. And because he injured himself, the Colts couldn't take him back in, and they immediately got picked off by Jalen Ramsey. So I think the fact that, he's such a gamer, it's almost playing to his detriment at this point. So if he's going to come back in and eventually be healthy, then I could see this being a very competitive game, and I think the Colts can take it. But if Carson Wentz is out, they stand no chance. I don't see them, going toe-to-toe with the Titans. So if Wentz is out, I'm taking the Titans. If Wentz plays, I think the Titans are going to have a much harder time, and I think the Colts can end up taking this one. Next up, we've got the Patriots and the Saints in New England. So, again, here we go again with one of these teams that I can't tell what they are based off of Week 1 and Week 2. The Saints looked extremely impressive. In Week 1, Winston had 5 touchdowns, no interceptions. This game, Jameis Winston had, I've written these down here. Jameis Winston had 11 completions out of 22 passing attempts, 111 yards, no touchdowns, 2 interceptions. Okay, that's pretty damn bad. That's really bad. Whereas Week 1, he was 14 for 20 with 148 yards, and he had 5 touchdowns and 0 interceptions. Now, it's clear to see that, they're not really giving him the ball to really sling it. They're really trying to limit him and limit the turnovers, because he has had a problem with turnovers in the past. But I'm just not sure what this Saints team is. Are they Week 1 or are they Week 2? So going forward, it's going to be really interesting to see if they are the Saints team that I thought they were going to be, the rebuilding Saints post-Drew Brees era, or if they're still a contending team based off the coaching prowess of Sean Payton. And so with that said, I've got the Patriots over the Saints only because this is their 3rd road game. Game that they're playing on the road. They're not in New Orleans. So I think the Patriots are going to, find a way to expose Jameis Winston, and I think that, they're going to be able to roll him pretty easily. Next up, we've got the Browns and the Bears in Cleveland. So the Browns, again, they're looking pretty tough. I think they're going to still win their division, and the Bears, as far as I heard, if I heard correctly on the news reports, Justin Fields is going to be starting. So this will be really interesting to see, but I still think that the Browns are head and shoulders above the Bears. Bears got still way too much to worry about as far as, bringing along their offense. Their defense is good, but their offense really needs a lot of work. So I got the Browns in this one. Let's see. Next up, we've got the Steelers and the Bengals in Pittsburgh. Okay, so here's another team. I can't tell what they are based off of Week 1 and Week 2. Although I will say that if I also heard correctly on this news report, Big Ben is injured already. So this could be a huge problem for the Steelers. Again, I don't think there's defense is the problem. I think it's the offense. And I already said a couple weeks ago, I wonder if Big Ben's going to be able to hold out, because towards the end of last season, after their huge winning streak, he did not look good. And he's already showing signs of, late last year, and this is barely Week 3. So who knows where they're going to go. As far as the Bengals go, just protect Joe Burrow. Anything could happen, but as long as you protect Joe Burrow, you'll be fine. I just don't know if I can trust them to do so, especially with the Steelers' defense. And depending on if they show up, I think that the Steelers could walk away with the win on this one. Next up, we've got the Chiefs and the Chargers in Kansas City. So the Chiefs, I think they're still AFC favorites, and I just think they got to tighten up their defense a little bit. That's all. I know that it was tough against teams like the Browns and the Ravens. Those are 2 pretty tough teams to start your season with. But I do think that, with Justin Herbert being as good as he is, I think they're going to be able to expose a little bit of him and his inexperience. And, oh man, Chargers. I've got 3 words for you. Chargers going to Charger. I don't understand how they lost that game against the Cowboys. I thought they had it. But a pick in the end zone, man, it's just Justin Herbert is such a good quarterback, and yet he threw that clear pick in the end zone to the Cowboys, and I just was like, man, it's the Chargers as usual. So I think I've got the Chiefs winning this one. Next up, we've got the Broncos and the Jets in Denver. Broncos look good to start. I'm really impressed by what I'm seeing. again, the only issue I have is, can Teddy Bridgewater be consistent all season long? But in this game, where they're going to be playing the Jets are not very good at all. I think the Jets are going to maybe try and be competitive, but I don't see it happening. Like, I think the Broncos are going to win this one pretty easily. Next up, we've got the Raiders and the Dolphins in Vegas. All right, so the Dolphins had 0 points against the Bills. That's pretty bad. You couldn't even march your offense down the field for, a field goal. That's pretty bad, and it's all because Tua got injured. Now, I've been saying this whole time, I don't trust Tua, but what I will say is at least he was able to put points up on the board. As soon as he went out, that offense was done. So it's pretty concerning that, they couldn't even get in field goal range, for the entire game against the Bills. Now, the Bills are an elite team. But when it comes to playing a team like the Raiders, who have beaten 2 teams that I did not expect them to beat, one being the Ravens and 2 being Pittsburgh in Pittsburgh on a short week after their defense looked great, I don't see this going any other way other than the Raiders winning. Now, one other thing I will add about the Raiders is, I'm impressed by your 2 wins so far. I really am. Raider Nation, you guys are riding high right now, but don't forget, last year you guys started 2-0 and you finished 8-8. John Gruden, again, I don't think it's so much the Raiders that I have an issue with. I think it's John Gruden, all right, because he always starts off fairly well, but then he tails off in the second half of the season. And if you take his Super Bowl away, he's still a 500 coach. So, and that's what he finished last year. So I'm really curious to see how the Raiders go on from now. But, Derek Carr is playing well. They're really surprising me. And, being in that division, if they can steal a game from the Chargers and the Broncos and the Chiefs, maybe they sneak into that playoff conversation. But until then, I'm not ready to make that move. Next up, we've got the Vikings and the Seahawks in Minnesota. All right, so where do I start? All right, Seahawks, that was a bad loss. I rewatched the highlights, and I cannot believe the Seahawks really let the Titans climb back into that game. I thought they had it for sure. They burned their secondary so many times with easy deep passes from Russell Wilson, and he looks great as usual. Early MVP candidate, just like he did last year. However, the fact that they let them crawl back into that game, and I know that it's a tough job trying to conceal and contain Derrick Henry, but, the Titans, they moved the ball on them really well. And I think that a lot of people are forgetting that there are holes in this Seahawks defense, and I think that the Titans exposed it. So I'm really interested to see how it's going to be against a Vikings team that put up, I think, about 33 points up on the Cardinals. And so they've got some firepower, and they've got Dalvin Cook. They've got a guy who can run, too. It's not like it's going to get any easier for them to stop this week as far as their run game or their run defense goes. So I'm actually going to pick the upset this week. I've got the Vikings beating the Seahawks. And I think it's really going to start putting them in a little bit of a situation where they're going to need to start tightening things up. Yeah, I'm going against the grain here. Like I said, I normally don't bet against Russell Wilson, but I just have a feeling the Vikings are going to pull this one out. All right, next up, we've got, in my opinion, the game of the week. We've got my Rams versus the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in Los Angeles. Okay, all right, so the Rams look good, and the Buccaneers look good. Both of them have shown they can put up points. Both of them have offenses that are extremely efficient and can make huge plays. Both of them have receiving options on both sides that are insane. Like, you've got Robert Woods, Cooper Kupp, Tyler Higbee, and various other people in that backfield, like Darrell Henderson, if he's healthy. And we're going to see what Sony Michel can do this week. But the offensive firepower that is brought on by the Buccaneers with Tom Brady, Rob Gronkowski, who looks like he's found the fountain of youth. He looks better than he did last year already. You've got Mike Evans. You've got Antonio Brown, all right, and Chris Godwin. This is going to be a hell of a game, and I am so excited for this. Now, I'm going to be objective here, and because it's Tom Brady and because Matt Stafford hasn't exactly shown that he can win on the big stage just yet, although I do believe that he has the potential to, I'm just going to give this one to the Bucks over the Rams because simply it's Tom Brady and he just finds a way to win. And I think it's going to be won by whichever defense is able to create a turnover in a crucial moment or get a stop in a crucial moment. So this is going to be a fun game. But surprisingly, I've got the Bucks beating my Rams. Now, next up, we've got the Packers and the Niners in San Francisco. So, all right, so Aaron Rodgers had a problem with people like me saying that, we were trolls, right? And, it was good to get us off his back after that week 1 loss to the Saints. It makes me laugh because, dude, you spent the entire offseason complaining about the franchise. You didn't go to any of these workouts. You didn't do any workouts with your offense before the season. And then you came out, you looked terrible, you looked completely unprepared, and yet we're trolls because we pointed out that you looked terrible. So I don't understand why we're not allowed to criticize you when you have a bad game. I picked the Packers to beat the Lions, and he's still not happy with the fact that we had something critical to say about him when he came out and looked terrible. All right, we're going to say whatever we're going to say because you looked like you were inefficient after a salty offseason, all right? With that said, I do think the Packers are going to beat the Niners this week because I think that they found a little bit of that juice, especially in the second half, against the Lions. The first half against the Lions, they looked horrible. I just was shocked at how bad they looked. But they really turned around in the second half. They tightened up on defense, and they just let it rip, and that offense was just ridiculous. Aaron Jones was unstoppable. And as far as the Niners go, I've got some numbers here on Jimmy Garoppolo. All right, so last game against the Eagles, he was 22 for 30. Okay, that's a pretty good percentage for completions and attempts. But he only threw for 189 yards. Okay, so, and he only had 1 touchdown. You know what that screams to me? It screams game manager. That means that someone who is moving the ball somewhat efficiently, but I don't see Shanahan trusting him. It just, to me, it doesn't, when you're throwing 22 times, but you don't even have 200 yards, that's a lot of dink and dunk. That's a lot of, short passes here, there. I'm not impressed by what I'm seeing. And, there's words coming out, he's saying that he's talking to Aaron Rodgers about, how should I handle my situation and how to move on from the Niners. So is he really invested in the Niners, knowing that, there's Trey Lance right behind him? So I just don't see how they're going to move forward with Jimmy G when he's not even, in my opinion, fully committed either. So I think the Packers are going to win this one. I think Aaron Rodgers coming back and playing in his hometown, of NorCal, I think he's going to, expose that 49ers defense a little bit. So we'll see what happens. All right, and last but not least, we've got the Cowboys and the Eagles in Dallas. So I've got the Cowboys beating the Eagles in this matchup, and I don't believe they're Super Bowl contenders. I just don't, because I think their defense is too sus. But with that offense, they should easily be the NFC East champions. All right, if you do not win the NFC East this year, Cowboys, you are the epitome of mediocrity, okay? Have some self-respect for yourself. You guys are good on offense, okay? Defense needs work, but it's a long season. Now, if you guys do not win the NFC East this year and you let the Eagles beat you, I know the Eagles have overperformed a little bit, but there's no reason why you guys shouldn't beat the Eagles this week, all right? The pressure's on at this point because now you're starting to build some expectations because you've shown signs of looking like a good team. So, with that said, I've got the Cowboys beating the Eagles in Dallas, and there it is, everyone. Those are my Week 3 picks and my Week 2 reactions. I know this video was a lot longer. I was going to try and split it up, but I've been running out of time here. So, like I said, I appreciate you guys joining me again. Leave a comment down in the comment section below. Let me know how you think your team's going to do. If you think I'm right or wrong on any of these picks, I thoroughly appreciate you joining me once again, and I'll see you next time.